Me one more time, you and Dr. Sharon, for including me one more time in these festivities. It's a wonderful time to be alive. It's a wonderful time to be here. I just love this teaching, and I see out here I've got a compatriot who was in my ministerial class, and this is a teaching that I just fell in love with when I first got in touch with it. And I came from a principal major teaching in the world, which I appreciate more now than I ever did when I was a member of it. But this gives me some flexibility that I really like. One of the things about this teaching, and by the way, today's topic that Dr. Sharon gave me is, do you want peace or drama? Wow. That seems so simple, and we'll get into it. I'll be talking about that, but I'm going to be talking about some other things, because this is a little bit more, there's a little bit more to this than you might think. One of the things that I love about this teaching is it starts with the representation, which I believe to be the truth, that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. So what does that make us? It makes us spiritual beings at our essence, which is non-material. And yet what we're living right now is very material. And sometimes it's got some challenges. Now, why are we doing this? I don't know for sure. It's not my business or anybody else's to really worry about it. It's here and it's now, and this is what we need to deal with, which is just a basic truism of existence. We need to deal with what's in front of us. Now is the moment. Now is all there is. There is nothing other than now. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't be spending now planning on what we've got to do at the end of the week. That's a now moment. But if we're projecting into something that isn't present, we're projecting something that really isn't real in our life. This also, in my belief, is to be a joyful experience. Does it have difficulties? Yeah. But those are just things happening. Things happening in life, and stuff happens in life. Whether we're going to be joyful or miserable about that is a choice. It has nothing to do with anything imposed upon us. And everything that does happen is an experience from which I can learn. There's a lesson in it. And if I choose to just fight it, resist it, and be angry about it, I'm not only miserable, but I've missed the point. The point is always, what's the lesson in this for me? Now, I can do this. I don't need to do this in some kind of a somber method that I've got to pay attention all the time, which I do, by the way, but not in a way that's negative or difficult. Difficulty comes not from what's happening, but from my perception of it. It can be really hard and require a lot of attention, and it can still be a pretty pleasant experience. And I'm sure all of us can look back at times in our lives when we were doing things that were extremely difficult, but we felt really rewarded by it. Why? Because at that point, I think we were doing what our individual purpose may be in life. Now, the big game plan in the sky, I don't know exactly, don't need to. My job is to take care of the moment, and the future will take care of itself. My personal belief is that there is an experience after this. This is a classroom, and that it's important for me to pay attention, and I haven't always done that, by the way. I can look back, and we've learned from all these things too, all these negative things. I can think of some of my younger years. It was a pretty hedonistic period. What I learned from that is that I was miserable the whole time. There was no pleasure in that at all. Why? Because I was inconsistent with my true self. But I needed that lesson in order to be able to, for instance, latch onto this teaching with a vengeance, knowing that for me anyway, it was the truth. It was my truth. Now, can you do this in other venues? Absolutely. We don't have the only truth. I mean, I've often shared this, that I was raised as a Roman Catholic, and I had nowhere near the appreciation of what I learned in the Catholic Church that I have today. But why is that? Because what this teaching is about is being open and receptive to truth, whatever that truth, whatever form that may take. So, and above all, enjoy the ride. One of since we are spiritual beings in physical form, it can create a bit of an issue here when you look at this topic. Do you want peace or do you want drama? Well, everybody likes to go to a drama, right, at the theater. But you don't necessarily want to participate in your real life. Why is that? The very nature of drama is conflict. It's all about conflict. Gnashing of teeth. Can that be stimulating? Yes. But if I need a lot of stimulation to have a sense of peace and fulfillment, I got some work to do. Because all that is a distraction. And in order to fulfill my purpose on life, I need not be distracted from myself or what it is I'm doing in life. I need to participate in that and embrace it with joy. And those moments that I just want to scream and tear my hair out, well, what do? I recognize that that's what's going on. This is an important thing. Recognize, for each of us, recognize what's going on in your life. Why? I can't learn a lesson from it if I don't. How is it that some things I've gone through that were really difficult and challenging, and I can think of a number even before I got into this teaching, that didn't bother me a bit. And other things that really weren't that big a deal just drove me crazy. There's a lesson in that, because it doesn't have anything to do with the stuff that's going on. Our life is not about the stuff that's going on. The one thing we have to constantly remember is that we are spiritual beings. So the real issues are spiritual in nature, which gets to another thing. The issue, the thing that we think is the issue, is almost never the issue. It's the thing behind the issue that's the issue. And sometimes it's the thing that's behind what's behind the issue that's the issue. It can get a little bit challenging. But if we don't recognize the truth, we cannot have any peace in our lives. We cannot have any fulfillment, and we cannot have any sense that we have gotten to where we're supposed to be. How many people, I was just in a meeting yesterday where there were some people there that were just in total denial of what was going on. Total, and instead of, there was a day when all I would be is get kind of angry at them, be a little mad at them. Today I felt kind of compassion. Where did that come from? It came from sticking around this teaching. That's where it came, and another program that I'm in. It came from that. It really didn't come from me, but it came from recognizing my own truth. And when stuff comes up in life, no matter how crazy it may seem or inappropriate it may seem or anything, the first thing I have to do is acknowledge it. If I don't acknowledge what's going on in my life, there's no way to fix whatever it is. If I do acknowledge it, it's somewhat simple, really. And how do we do that? We make a decision. The first thing we do is we turn our will and our lives over to the care of this creative power from which we come. From that, I know I will receive guidance. I remember I used to always view that turning my will over to this higher power was an idea that I was not in disagreement with, but I always had just a little eensy bit of yeah, but. What I found, if I want true freedom, I must do that without reservation. Turn my will and my life over to this higher power who will guide and protect me. Why? I come from this source. That is the source and substance of my supply. I come from it. It is not my enemy. It is my friend. And it comes from a level a level that is above where I am right now. This human experience, sometimes you look at it, there's definitely, if I'm a spiritual being, why am I going through this? Well, the bottom line is, I don't know for sure, but I know there's a reason. And the other thing I've found, as long as I've been into this teaching, more and more I'm enjoying this experience. And quite frankly, I didn't disenjoy it most of my life. Why? One thing that I think is essential is that I must maintain a positive attitude. Positive thinking creates positive results. Negative thinking creates negative results. And if I want a lot of negative stuff in my life, just do the woe is me, think of every negative possibility, and it's sure to be there. Almost every spiritual party that's addressed this issue has talked about the fact, Voltaire is one, but there's a number of them. An idea held steadily in mind draws to itself those things necessary for its fulfillment. So if I've got something that seems very difficult, very challenging, and maybe not even doable, do I just sit and say, oh no? No, I affirm that that's an accomplished fact right now. I affirm it's right now done. Why? I'm not allowing any equivocation to come into the picture. If I'm allowing equivocation to come into the picture, I'm going to get some equivocation in the results. So one of the things this leads us with is that, and oh my God, this one I hate because it's no passing the buck. I am responsible. If I don't do it, it isn't going to get done. And I don't know what your view is of future and past lives, but my personal view is that when I leave here, I take with me whatever I take with me. And if I refuse or do not achieve some of the things that I could have, that I was capable of, that was based upon the gifts that I was given, and all of us were given different gifts, if I don't do that, there's a chance I'm going to have another lesson, and it's probably going to be one I don't really want. So I make a point of suiting up and showing up. And quite frankly, I think our basic human nature is to want to do the right thing. Yeah, we want to kind of take care of self. Why? In the physical world, if you look at it, the core part of the physical world, just separating out the physical from the metaphysical, the core part of it is survival. And if you're talking about survival, it's dog eat dog, right? Well, even in the animal world, you see a lot of working together, which means that even in the animal world, there's a principle that goes above the individual. But I think we have been given a charge that goes beyond that. Our lesson is past that particular level. So what I do today is I appreciate everything I see. There's an affirmation that I use. Bless the world. That sets a positive frame of mind. Positive frame of mind for my looking at things. And if I set, whatever I'm setting in my mind, that's what's going to work. Bless the world. Trust yourself. God gave us a lot of gifts, and whatever we were given, some are stronger than others. Those are gifts that we need in terms of our own experience and what we're supposed to be doing on this planet. Trust those things. And the last thing is expect the best. Expectation is an affirmation. Affirmations work. I mean, if you look at the world and you can see something, you'll see some people think it's the worst thing to ever happen, others think it's the best thing to ever happen. So what's that mean? It's neutral. It doesn't have any meaning in and of itself. Stuff has no meaning in and of itself. It truly doesn't. It's just stuff. What we do with it is something entirely different. That's our choice. It's also our responsibility. Now, are we going to go to hell if we don't do that? No, we're not. But I think life is a continuum on some level. And if it's a continuum, what we don't do now, we're going to have to do later. Because I think it's our very nature, our very spiritual nature to evolve. And that's an ongoing process. Now, by the way, I think we get a joy out of doing that just here and now. If it ended tomorrow and there was nothing, it wouldn't change anything I'm saying. I love the H.L. Mencken, who was a journalist in the mid-19th century, or 20th century, and a Pulitzer Prize winner and everything. He was an avowed atheist. And he was asked, Mr. Mencken, what are you going to do if you die and you find out there's a God? What are you going to say? He said, I was wrong. So I don't think it changes. What I'm talking about is our core nature. And in my belief, and it's just a belief system. If I have a belief system, by the way, that could be wrong. Belief systems are just belief systems. They're not based on empirical fact, really. They're based on an inner knowing in most of our cases. Whatever it is what it's going to be, and don't worry about it. The name of the game, because I think this is our core nature, we need to suit up and show up and do the best we can with what we have, where we are. Now, peace. What's the nature of peace? Peace is it's a state of mind in which fear of any kind is unknown. Now, our basic human nature has a lot of fear in it because it's on the physical plane, and on the physical plane, for all living critters, survival is a core element. When we're in a state of peace, there's an evolvement. It doesn't mean obviously our physical nature hasn't gone. And by the way, I want to treasure that part of me as long as I'm living. Why? If I don't treasure it, what am I doing with it? I'm disdaining or disliking it. If I'm disdaining or disliking it, I'm disrespecting it, and I'm going to be miserable for doing that. And it's also, in my view, inconsistent with the truth, inconsistent with universal truth. There is almost, as I said, something behind the thing, whatever it is we're looking at. So always be looking at that. The appearance is usually not the issue. The appearance is already in effect. Whatever happens in your life that you're driving you crazy or you see as a negative, it happened because of something that went before it. So I would always make a point of taking a look at what went before it. Because the truth is, when we're dealing with a physical world, we're dealing with cause and effect, also in the spiritual world. But they're a little bit different, and they don't have the same results. In the spiritual world, we have unlimited creative abilities, in my view. We can make quantum leaps forward. Even as raised as a Catholic, one of the things that I could never understand is that if you make an honest admission of your sins, you can be instantly redeemed. Well, the SOB ought to spend some time someplace. And that's not what it says. Why? Because God is forgiving. Now, I didn't get it then, because there's a little more of the hellfire and brimstone on that side of the street, but that's not really the essence of the teaching. I mean, the Christian and Catholic, anyway, is part of it. It really is about a loving God and a forgiving God. And all I know is I never saw negative people that were happy. Have you? I've never seen any that were happy. I've seen some that were very successful. And in fact, my most successful days economically were my most miserable. Why? Even though I was trying to be pretty decent, I was kind of a me, me, me first thing. Well, me, me, me doesn't really work. The final thing on this issue of peace is nothing, this is right from Emerson, nothing can bring you peace but yourself. Wow, this really is a buck stops here operation, isn't it? That's a challenge on the one hand, but it's also a wonderful thing. That means I'm not an effect of all the stuff that's going on around me. And how often, if you look at lives of the saints and the rest of them, there'll be this chaos going on around them. None of these things move me. That's not me. Now, am I at the level where I could survive all that? I'm not so sure. But I know what? I'm headed in that direction. And I believe it. And it is done unto you how? As you believe. The thing about it's also when you look at it's really a gift based upon just the spiritual state of being. The one thing that's important is that, in my opinion also, is that there are three things which can really damage the soul, and that's negativity, judgment, and imbalance. So I always have to do corrective things. But the one thing, if I start with the affirmation that my good already is, and perfect right action prevails, I can rely on the community, the creative source to give me some corrective guidance. And that's not dictated to me because there's no separation between me and the infinite. If there's no separation between me and the infinite is not going to give me a direction which hurts itself. Cannot do that. So the direction I get is valid. Is valid. I need to go with it. Now, by the way, some of these things don't come easily. But start in and act as if. If some of these things you're not quite there yet, don't worry about it. Take what you can use and leave the rest. But if you keep coming back here, you're going to start working on these issues, and what? Your life is going to get better, I guarantee you. Now, maybe your economic situation won't get better. What I've found as I've gotten along is that that's very much less important to me. I'm blessed to not have those issues, but I don't have the same drive or interest in that stuff anymore. It's just stuff. It's not me. It's not my essence. It's just a means of taking care of business. Again, I am so honored to be here, and I'm getting the word that I better shut up. So I'm going to do just